Welcome back. Third session of the third day of the Next Normal with an interesting panel, Transform Your HCP Journeys with a New Channel Approach. Today with me, I have three great panelists. So first of all, I have Marina Borozna from ViiVHEALTH. Hi, Marina, how are you?
Hi, Dario.
Samuel Driessen from Teva Pharmaceuticals. Samuel, same question to you. And hi, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. How about you?
All fine. And Mark Benthin, the CEO from ViiVHEALTH. Mark.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. And Dario, that rocket ship behind you, is it about to launch or
exactly.
That's
exactly.
a normal.
It's a normal rocket ship, so no worries. Okay, let's deep dive into the discussion. And my first question to you would be, how does our current HCP journey look like, and what channels does that currently include? Let's start with you, Marina, if you don't mind.
Oh, that's a wonderful question. So we have a plethora of channels to reach our HCPs, right? We have face-to-face, we have congresses, we have webcasts, we have personalized videos, we have email. The next challenge for us as practitioners is to stitch them together into sensible journeys that make sense and that drive engagement. So that's what I see as the challenge for us.
So the next best challenge.
The next best challenge.
Thanks a lot, Marina. Samuel?
Yeah. To tag on to what Marina says, is I can relate to that. So it's like I would say is like what we are really trying to do, and I think that relates very closely to what Marina was just saying, is that we try to connect to the HCP or to the customer where he or her is, right? So it's like he or she is, right? So it's like so instead of expecting them to find us somewhere on offline, this is that we connect in the places where the HCPs are, whether that's social media or email or a web platform, etc.
Thanks a lot. But do we really know where they are? Mark, maybe additional question to you.
Well, I think there's a series of destinations that include all of these, the congresses, the webcasts or websites, social, where people are spending some time. And then we've got a series of channels to try and bring about that conversation with an HCP in one of those areas, or about some content, in order to bring them through the adoption ladder or adoption stage, whether that's face-to-face, remote meetings that are done synchronously, and then email, that would be something that they use on their own time. Do we know where they're spending all of their time? Absolutely not. But are we able to catch them through a channel along their way while they are in context somewhere else? Absolutely. And being able to formulate that into an overall personalized journey that Marina is mentioning, that actually takes advantage of the information that we do have, and how we can update that for each individual physician, that does help get the right message to the right individual at approximately the right time. That's very useful, right? I think that's where we're trying to get to with all of this omnichannel focus.
Certainly. In my opinion, I think that we see a gap and a conflict between the traditional journey and the new digital journey. And can you maybe explain where this gap lies? And in the future, how do you see that these journeys will evolve and develop further? So let's start with you, Samuel.
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's like, so I think there's one gap in one big gap or one big challenge that Mark also just referred to, as it's like relating to omnichannel, is like really making sure that when we engage with and connect with an HCP, or when an HCP connects with us, because I think that's also an important movement. It's from pull to push, right, or the other way around, right? So it's like they decide where they want to engage with us instead of us deciding where they should engage with us. But it's also making sure that the experience is consistent across the channels, right? So it's like that when they engage with us in one channel, that they don't have to just on a very practical level have to identify themselves again when they engage with us in another channel, or to say it differently, that the person that also from our side that is engaging with the HCP knows that this HCP is also engaged with us through other channels, whether offline or online. I mean, I think we can all relate to that on a personal level, a consumer level, that that's a hugely frustrating experience if we have to identify ourselves multiple times. Those are one big gap that I would like to highlight.
Certainly it is. Maybe it's good to mention here that the financial sector is having a very typical gap, right, between very expensive ads and very bad service at the front desk, right? So fully agree that this huge gap sometimes is really in some industries are quite certain. Mark, same question to you.
I think if we look at any of the digital tools or apps or systems that have grown exponentially and really gone through adoption across many markets, there's an overriding factor of convenience. And I think that if we can call that a gap, that is a gap that's across the board. And I think the dual login is certainly one element within it, but it's being able to use the channels that are there and make sure that the message is ultimately very, very relevant at that moment in time. So live meetings, face-to-face meetings, they're happening at a time when they can happen in the office. May or may not be the most convenient, but it is a really important mainstay for the relationship building. Remote meetings are generally scheduled. So, convenience is somewhat limited. It should be convenient in the fact that it's scheduled at a time that we want. But how can we make sure to use the email channel and other channels to really give the physician information that they can actually use whenever they get a chance, right? Whenever they get a chance in between meetings, 2 minutes here or there, a little bit of content grazing in order to get a great experience in that channel. I think that's a gap of how we use, this email channel or asynchronous channels to be able to drive convenience and therefore also drive a great customer experience. And I think we do use a lot of email, but I don't think that necessarily all the email that gets sent out it results in a great customer experience. Thanks
a lot, Mark. Marina?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to call out one gap, I would call that integration. And that's integration from the point of view of the customer. As Samuel was saying, our HCPs want to see consistent experience across all channels. If we send them something by email, they don't want to hear the same message in a face-to-face call, and they're going to be interested in hearing the same message over again in a webinar. But to achieve that, we also need to integrate those channels on our side. So I, as a sales rep, need to know if my doctor went to our webpage and downloaded materials, right? That would be a signal of interest. Or if I invited my doctor to a webinar, I need to know if they attended. If they didn't attend, maybe I can remind them to watch the recording. Or if they asked a question in that webinar, I'd like to know what that question is, so in my next call, I can follow up. But to do that integration, all the data that goes from all these various channels need to be integrated in our internal IT systems so we can bring one consistent picture to the sales rep in a way that's easy for them to consume. And that would help answer the challenge that Mark has referred to, which is tailoring. Unless we know if this doctor opens emails, do they take face-to-face calls, do they like webinars? And, when do they open emails? Is it in the evening? Is it lunches? What time works for them? But unless we have all that information together and can apply analytics on it, we will not be able to tailor things. So integration would be my gap.
So connecting the dots from different systems and knowing the behavior of your particular HCP, right? So that might be a very good personalized approach, certainly. Next question, what and which analytics can teach us to incrementally scale our channels towards a proper HCP journey? I would bold proper, so. Mark, let's start with you.
Well, I think there's been lots of analytics that have already been generated across the channels. And so those, what used to be the multi-channel silos, the data from each of those individual channels has provided a great baseline for omnichannel. But I think what Marina is also mentioning is the notion of intent. What in the, aside from the raw usage, what are the questions? What was the additional information that can we learn that is behind the engagement? So somebody engaged, but so what? What does it mean about where they are in the funnel? What does it mean about how their behavior might be changing based upon the overall customer view? And can that generate a signal to be able to actually update or provide new information to that individual physician? So in terms of that, how can we make sure that the content that we offer in these various channels, in the offers that are reaching them digitally, is also telling us enough data, not just about what they did, but why, what was the message that brought them in to actually say, yes, I'd like to participate and learn more, right? Try and gather that information, do more A/B testing. Also often we see with clients that the end result is where they're focused and the execution, but along the way, there's a lot of points where there could be additional information gathered about intent that is not necessarily being used. And I think that could be a good area to draw more data. Thanks a lot. Samuel?
Yeah, so there's two that come to mind. What Mark just said is I fully agree with that. So it's like I would say it's just like for us it's like an internal there's internal analytics, I would almost say. It's just like and it relates actually also to the previous question about gap. I think speed is also a gap in the pharma industry, right? So it's like I mean, I joined Teva 5 years ago, and if I look at how long it takes for a channel to be rolled out, right? So it's like within our industry, I was amazed, right? So it's like this is like absolutely not the benchmark when you look outside of the pharma industry. So for us, like the speed, but also cost is a big benchmark. It's just like we want to get relevant content and then relevant channels out in a much faster way, in a much more scalable way. That's more internal. And external is like one of the things that we're doing more and more is like across the board is like introducing the Net Promoter Score, NPS, not only for the channel experience, but actually just the customer experience end to end, and really even towards senior management, that is becoming more and more a metric to basically give feedback into the organization that do we actually provide our customers, so HCPs, also with a relevant experience, with relevant content at the right time, as Mark was saying, etc. So those are two that I would add.
Marina?
Well, analytics is something that's very close to my heart, and I can talk at length, so I'll try to summarize it in bullet points. So the absolutely critical things we can do with analytics to improve customer engagement is, first of all, channel preferences. Like we can understand at an HCP level what channels do they prefer. That's one thing. We should definitely be looking at content effectiveness, which content works, which content doesn't. And if we overlap that with preference of a particular doctor, we can then go into the area of segmentation and targeting, of creating a smaller segment of a doctor who likes this particular content, sent to them via this particular channel, at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. That's my nirvana. That's what I'm aiming for. And so bringing these three things together, bringing information about we know about the doctor based on our internal data, but also bringing external parties. What do they know about these HCPs from their external social media posting, congress attendance, clinical trial information. So bringing that together, and definitely A/B testing. Right? We can create a fantastic strategy. We can design a tactic. We can tailor a message. But unless we test it in the market, we don't really know how well it lands. And if we can tackle this challenge, I think Mark mentioned, of speed, if we can introduce A/B testing, be more agile, test what works, improve quickly and iteratively, that would be great as well. But of course, I don't want to oversimplify, because in our industry, content production is different to your content production in financial services. It will be slower, it will be more complex, but I think we can still be a bit more relevant.
Thanks a lot, Marina. Do you think how this current HCP journey will develop? In your opinion, what's the next thing when it comes to be the next best?
We lost you for a second there, Dario. I think there's a connection issue.
Hello? You hear me?
Barely.
Hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can't see you for some reason, but.
Okay. So my question was, how do you see this HCP journey will develop in the segment of the next best and other tools?
You're breaking up, Dario, but I think the question is where do we see the future of HCP Journeys?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Maybe you can start, Marina.
Okay, I can start. Well, we want to deliver the kind of experience for HCPs that we are getting us as consumers, where we get the content that tailored to my needs, not generic, given to me via the channel that I prefer.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark.
I can relate to that one, Marina. So it's like with the slogan that we have in Teva is we aim to be the easiest company to do business with, right? So it's like so that's driving a lot of the way we develop, integrate, measure, etc.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, well, where we've tended to focus over the last couple of years is trying to bring about, the knowledge that physicians want a quicker, bite-sized chunk of content. So that's there. They want it to be personalized and relevant to their situation as much as possible. They'd like it to be convenient and consume it anywhere. And we also know that the message retention has been proven to be much better when it's generally in a video format. Is certainly higher message retention than if one simply reads a document. So what we've been working on, and I think that's the aspect of new in the title of this panel. Is really to see, well, can we combine content automation, which is prevalent in the industry now today, with personalization, with the ability to actually generate video that is truly personalized, not just delivering video, but generate video at scale, at low cost, that is very personalized to the individual physician. So I think that's an area where it's taken us a certain amount of time to get to nirvana. We think we're there, and with additional knowledge of when the physicians would like to get this information, as Marina mentioned, on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m., then that's additional information that's useful from the execution side. But being able to bring that convenience to the channel. So if we go back to where we started, we've got destinations where there's great information, and we've got vehicles where we can start to have conversations that are synchronous. We're trying to make sure that asynchronous channel that physicians are doing on their own time is as exciting and relevant and personalized as and brings them to those ultimate destinations along the way, but it's something that can scale across the environment. So it does require a combination of all of these capabilities, and I think being agile not in our content approval process, but in our content delivery approach is really critical for the get the right data from other channels. We've got to combine it in a true omnichannel way, but at the end of the day, we need to become a little bit more agile on the execution to make sure that we're delivering the best experience that each of our physicians is trying to seek.
Thanks a lot. From the tech side, what do you see might be the next best thing when it comes to the technology implementation? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, for now, it's okay for now.
Okay, so what do you see from the tech side? What is the next best thing? Maybe we can start with you, Marina.
Well, I am very excited about the opportunity of personalized videos. We've seen that when we send emails which contain a link to personalized video, our open rates are very high. So it looks like this is the kind of content that our HCPs like, and I'd like to see more of it.
Mark, come from a tech company?
Well, that's definitely a page out of our playbook. So personalized video and personalization, I think, works in many different ways, many different facets. But being able to essentially both hand live video that is personalized, plus also generate video that is also ultimately very personalized, that's an exciting area of development. And what's excellent about it is that it delivers fantastic data, ties into the existing ecosystem, and makes use of all those railroad tracks that have already been laid from a technical perspective. So we see some good advantages of that going forward, and it's the kind of thing that can be tied into anybody's campaign, no matter what stage they're at. So even it's not something that one has to plan for 5 years in order to take advantage of. It's easy to actually test and pilot and see if it's successful.
Thank you. Samuel?
Yeah, so I must say that I may be a bit boring here, but for us and even for myself, I think for us the challenge is really making sure that the fundamentals are in place and we get that right, so that we can innovate on top of that. I think there's a lot of focus on the shiny stuff, and that sometimes leads to less focus on just getting fundamentals right, so that we can actually do this at scale. But if I would call out an area where I'm interested in, I have a background in language and speech technology, so I'm always very interested in all applications and development, and innovation in the area of natural language processing, language technology. And of course, there are many areas where you can use that practically, like chatbots, personalization, automatic translation, right? So automatic transcription of videos, where personalized videos. So if I would call out one, it would be language technology or natural language processing.
Thanks a lot, Samuel. We received an interesting question, which is, how would you rate the effectiveness of the response to a personalized campaign? Who would like to try to provide an answer on that?
This one's from Marina.
Please, go ahead.
Nicely delegated. So by rate, I assume you mean how would you measure it, right?
Exactly. I suppose.
Okay. Well, the kind of the quick and dirty one, your open and click-through rate. If nobody opened your email, that didn't work, right? More sophisticated one, of course, what we're aiming for is prescription and market share. So if there is a way to tie that campaign to change in the market share, or at least intention to prescribe, that would be a good measure as well.
Thank you, Mark. Samuel?
I would agree with Marina. You could also go into like details on like viewing time, right? So it's like all kinds of combinations of what Marina said with other metrics, but. Mark.
Scenario.
Oh no, Mark is breaking up.
We can't hear you, Mark. Your voice is actually. Seems Mark is having some technical issues. Internet connection might be a problem. Yeah, we can't hear you clearly.
Yeah, just Dario, the richness of content of this conversation is just so big that the bandwidth is not handling it well. And that's the challenge.
I can fully underline that, Marina.
That happens, yeah.
So I even can't imagine what will happen in Dubrovnik. So fantastic. Okay, so thanks a lot for this great conversation. Marina, Samuel, and Mark, was really a great pleasure to meet you virtually and to discuss this very interesting topic in terms of the digital and the HCP journeys. Looking forward to the next conversation, and take very good care.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dario, for inviting, and happy to answer questions during this conference or outside if those listening that are interested. Thank you.
Yeah, same.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.